we had to have a real good cover story. And I remember, they were questioning everybody and uh, trying to get some kind of angle on us. And I was like, wow, I guess they're no longer like the old Nazis, or maybe just this group isn't. But it was like, and then I still hear that there's people that have these underground shelters where they have all the Nazi memorabilia, and they go down there and they have groups to come down. It's like, wow. So some people still support all that, obviously.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot. Seems like a lot of the German people have broken free. I wonder how much. Now, you talk about how Germany before World War II, they were very into the spiritual stuff, and they were traveling all over the world. Tell us a little bit about that. And they were channeling and tapping into some very interesting information, ETs and stuff.
Oh yeah, that then it's really where even the Third Reich gets its formation, because the Thule Society was formed during World War One, and
Oh,
some of the early adherents were none other than the mustache guy, Himmler, Hess, and several others who became very high ranking in that organization. And they were very interested in all the ancient lore, legend, even artifacts of previous civilizations, some that had done very well by conquering the European homeland. And that's what the First Reich and the Second Reich were. The First Reich was with the great German general who ruled out of Aachen, Germany, named Charlemagne. And
oh yeah,
he had in his possession the Spear of Destiny,
yep.
which was the spear that pierced the side of Jesus on the cross.
Mm-hmm.
And any army that were to carry the Spear of Destiny would be invincible. So the very first thing that the mustache guy did when they annexed Austria in 1938 into the Third Reich was to acquire the Spear of Destiny, which was in the Habsburg Museum in Vienna, Austria. And at the end of the war, there's a very interesting story about how Patton's army, I think it was the Sixth Army, found it in just like a bank vault, a very unlikely place to find it when all the gold was missing. But here's the Spear of Destiny. But they think the SS put a decoy on, and instead the real deal went down to Antarctica with other priceless artifacts, and that has gained the Fourth Reich their invincibility in what they've been doing
Yeah.
as this third force.
And that excellent movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where, we've talked about this before, Indiana Jones and, the Nazis, World War II, trying to find the Ark of the Covenant.
Yep.
So that was, that's basically just giving us little clues, little breadcrumbs, of, what that was all about during that time frame. So, and then, of course, in the movie, they just put it in a box and they put it in a huge warehouse. No, it went to Antarctica if they ever found it. Or, I think there was many Ark of the Covenants, but if they did find one, it's probably down there. So that's their new base, and so they're talking to these ET races, channeling Maria. What was her name? Yeah,
Maria
so she.
Ornge.
Yep. Yeah, so she's doing the channeling and bringing information from Aldebaran or something.
Yep.
And so that's how they got the bell and some of these other high tech craft, and that could probably, and of course they stole Nikola Tesla's information because they had Curious George W. Bush, H.W. Bush, that was in there
Yep.
spying around while his dad was, doing the accounting. So yeah, there's lots of information that these guys have stolen.
Right.
A lot of great information. Of course, the Germans are exceptional engineers.
Yeah.
In their own right. But they're so, and then you throw in some high tech on top of that, and they took off.
And then that's where the Vril Society steps in. They too were just after World War I, as you mentioned, with the women with the very long hair that felt it would help with um, their ability to telepathically communicate with Aldebaran. And it was the famous German engineer Victor Schauerberger who looked at some of the drawings that the women had produced from these seances or these telepathic connections. And he said, this is workable intelligence. We can put this with our engineering corps and start designing this stuff. So in the 19 teens, Germany, as you said, was extremely advanced technologically. And then they started getting these blueprints and drafts that they realized, wow, we've got some incredible technology at our hands. That was when the Thule Society took over the Vril Society and then started weaponizing these blueprints, these plans that they had. Plus, the Germans also acquired a down disc in 1933 in the Black Forest. That was pretty broken up, but they were still able to backward engineer and start to understand a lot of the flying dynamics of these things. But then in the late 1930s, a nearly intact UFO went down in the Lombardy region of Italy, and Mussolini allowed the German engineers to use it to backward engineer. So they had this incredible head start. They've been working on this stuff for a century now. So no wonder that the Allies were so worried about these wonder weapons at the end of World War II that they could unleash and just annihilate a whole flank of troops.
Yeah. So and then they have then they have the ET, the negative ET race that comes in and helps them out. So the Aldebaran, is that the where the Draco from?
No, they're actually benevolent ETs. They're the ones who
The Aldebaran, huh?
Yeah, Alex Collier has a connection with as well.
Okay.
So as soon as they started to go to the dark side, Aldebaran cut them off. But the Nazis still wanted to get this more technology, and then that's when they made the deal with the devil and became allied with the Draco and the gray ETs, which are basically they're all just test tube created. All the grays are. They're a mix, even including some of our DNA, and that supposedly that's why they're here, because they're a dying race and they're trying to save themselves. But really, they're all just created beings that do not have a soul. The reptilians have a soul, and the reptilians are still mother female born entities, but they have chosen not to go to the light, so to speak. The reptilians stay in fourth dimensional and third dimensional density because they like it here and they like playing these games and they like to be the rulers. And the reptilians are like locusts throughout the universe. And if they have a up and coming civilization like ours, then they hive mind it and do their best to assimilate with few amounts of people, but doing macro things. And in this case, allying with the Germans. And they actually made the Faustian deal. The Germans took it in that if they were to win, that they would get a quarter of the Earth's resources, the reptilians the rest. But things didn't work out that way. And then they moved operation down to Antarctica. And it's said that when Schirmacher put his plane to land the men to go ashore, they already had an idea of where to go, because they were going to find an older reptilian base that they could then refurbish and make their own, that was basically given to them. So all the while, the reptilians have had this kind of background role, not only with the Antarctica Germans, but also was it their craft that came up out of the water to confront Admiral Byrd in Operation High Jump? They're still running debate whether in early 1947 the Germans had that technology to fly from up out of the water and then long distances. but sometimes the insignia was seen on the craft, including when Admiral Byrd, in his diary, flying down into this inner Earth area, said there was swastika-like emblems on the craft. So it could very well be that they were already that advanced that they could then enter their discs into battle, which some kind of flying disc did in the Battle of High Jump, which is a big part of my book and depicted on the cover as well. So that's what makes this all so interesting, is because the history we've been told is not the history that we get. And I think if history were truly to be told, you would have the Antarctic Germans being the first men to land on the moon and even colonize Mars. And that's the Nachtwaffen, the Dark Fleet, which at the end of my book, Secrets of Antarctica, I go into how their whole secret space program continued with the very advanced science of a century ago, and were then able to even transverse throughout our solar system and even set up colonies. Because when our first astronauts went around the dark side of the moon, they spotted the Nazi base, which happens to be in the shape of a swastika. So they beat our guys there by at least 20 years, probably in the 1940s, were making their first trip there. So they were very capable of using these dish-shaped craft, and could very well have been the craft that confronted the Central Armada of ships in the Battle of High Jump.
Yeah. So, there's been other shows out there, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. I remember watching this as a kid, and it really looked. And this submarine could dive all the way down to the bottom of the sea.
Yeah.
And it had this flying craft that came out of it. And I always thought, of course, we're going to be seeing that soon. But I guess, they like to keep this information from us. And that's one of the problems that we're encountering. They steal information from those of us that are, tapped into source, because they can't tap it. And they steal information from us. I have some authors, several authors that are going to come on and talk about how their information was stolen. The Matrix, the Saving Private Ryan, the woman, she was the real Saving Private Ryan. She talked to this one guy, and he basically took her information and wrote the book, and then they did the movie. So they are in so many different areas. They do this stuff. Films, and like we're just talking right now, and other areas, technology. Someone comes up with hydrogen, which is basically going to be the future. Hydrogen will absolutely be the future. It already is here. I saw hydrogen on submarines when I was working in the Navy. Very, very effective. But they've kept that from us. So if someone comes up with a hydrogen water-based vehicle, and they come and it's like, oh, we're gonna take this technology and give it to everybody, and they just take it and go away with it, and then that person ends up dead. And that's one of the things they just keep doing. They keep stealing the technology, like Tesla, free energy and so forth. Where do you think this is going?
Yeah, strange new world is where it's going. It's already there. Yeah. Wow. This is a time to be alive, to see it all start to come down. Because on the other hand, you also have the Great Awakening, where people are starting to see through this very finely crafted facade built up by the intelligence sources, by our mainstream media, to create this narrative. But the cracks are forming, and part of the Great Awakening is having the intuition, as you write about in your books, awakening to this intuition to be able to see through this facade that has been so carefully created. I love the meme during the pandemic when it showed Bill Gates making this face like, oh, of abject horror. And it says, that face you make when a meme destroys your multi-billion-dollar propaganda campaign, because people just start to see right through it. And we're starting to see that there was this third force all the while, based out of Antarctica and South America in these micro nations where they just own these huge land tracts down there. And that's part of where some of the hardware went, including this area near La Falda, which had the Eden Hotel that Hitler and Eva
Mm-hmm.
Braun and
Yeah.
even their dog Blondie famously showed up at several times after World War II. And not far from there, though, Michael, there's this other mountain range in southern South America called the Sierra del Cordoba, near the second largest city, Cordoba. And on the southern end of that mountain range is this very famous UFO hotspot. It's even written up in Lonely Planet that people get abducted there, and these UFO craft leave burn marks on the ground, and people have seen them, and they're coming and going out of this mountain all the time for decades. So I come back from the trip, and I'm so eager to tell David Hatcher Childress this, and he also does a lot of work and books on German high technology and crafts and
Oh
so
yeah.
forth. I got one of his right here about the Honeyboo craft. That these were the main crafts that flew, that they developed in World War II and then went on. And he thinks it was the Honeyboo craft that people were seeing and reporting in the Sierra del Cordoba mountain range. I said, well,
Wow.
how do you think that? He's like, Brad, those aren't aliens. Those are the Germans. They had an underground base there. And this is when they're testing their technology. He said, do you really think that real UFOs would have rivets in them and sometimes be seen with smoke coming out or leave burn marks? He goes, that wasn't aliens. It was the Antarctica or South American Germans, the Third Force, the Fourth Reich, all this time, which have basically been written out of our history. And only now are we starting to put enough pieces together that shows that they've been around the whole time, just like they've been in New Schwabenland the whole time in Antarctica. They never left.
Yeah. And I see in your book that you have tons of stuff on ET craft that's under, just about kind of under the ice, but kind of peeking out, and they found all this stuff. It's incredible. And of course, Hollow Earth under there. There's like a whole, because there's so much volcanic activity there. There's like, you just go below the level of the ice, and it's like a whole world down there.
Right. So just like the sonar scans of the Giza Plateau a couple months ago, they've been doing that on the ice, which is actually easier to penetrate because it's not as dense as Earth, but finding that there are whole ecosystems that exist under the ice. As you mentioned, the geothermal activity, the continent of Antarctica is the most volcanically active continent in the world, with all kinds of heating domes and vents where life loves to flourish. And so at the very least, they're finding it's a whole new ecosystem down there, but also that there could have been these legacy bases that have been down there, as well as some high-tech civilizations, such as Admiral Byrd writes about in his diary, which is only getting more verification as time goes on. In fact, there's just a new video that's been popping up that shows this guy who was working in intelligence, and he wanted to go to the National Archive to see these pictures that they had from Admiral Byrd's trip, that he took over 300 pictures that they will not release to the public. But Admiral Byrd writes about it in his diary that he goes to this shimmering, pastel colored, high-tech civilization and meets with the master, who's telepathic. He said he was reading his thoughts. And this is where it gets really interesting, because like William Cooper said, you put the aliens in the middle of this stuff and you get all the answers. So you really have to factor in the extraterrestrial component here, even if they're very advanced human-like entities that look very much like us. There's a model kit of the Honeyboo 2 from Revel. You used to make plastic model toys, I'm
Oh
sure,
yeah.
Michael. I did.
Oh yeah.
You
Everybody
can't
did.
even
Yeah.
buy these in Germany right now.
Wow.
Childers had this one. He ordered it from Turkey because they have outlawed anything with the swastika or even the black sun symbol, and anything that could glorify the Third Reich is outlawed in Germany
And on YouTube.
and on YouTube. So I'm going over to Germany in May, and I'm going to do this conference presentation I have of the Antarctica Germans
Wow.
having these colonies there still to this day, and we'll see how I'm received. Hopefully I'll be able to make it out. But it's time the world knows how advanced they were, how this part of history has not been stolen, and how much evidence there is to support it. And there's the symbol of the black sun, which plays a big role in the underground. And that too is still an outlawed symbol, like the swastika in Germany today.
And this was on the floor of that castle.
Yeah, the Wee Weaselberg Castle.
Yep, right here.
Yeah, I have that in my book too.
See if they have it here.
And when I go over there, I'm going to meet up with Frank Jacob, filmmaker, and his girlfriend Tanya Badenford, and they have found the Bavarian hunting lodge where the Vril women were receiving those transmissions. So we're going to go there, and we're going to go to Wee Weaselberg Castle and go see.
Really?
Yep.
Nice.
In May. So I'm going to do a little field trip. Where is he now? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Wow, you do so good with that.
Well, we're both speaking at the Alien conference in March down in LA, if anybody wants to come. This is the map of Wee Weaselberg Castle, which is the point of the tip of the spear. Think again, Spear of Destiny. And that's where the SS and all their occultic practices would do these ginormous festivals. And they were planning that this was going to be the mother of all Aryan inspired festivals at Wee Weaselberg Castle. But the war ended before they finalized the larger grounds around Wee Weaselberg, which was going to be in the shape of a spear.
And in Aachen, that Charlemagne had his tomb, and he was supposedly it was like this giant of a man, and so the Nazis went in. It had been undisturbed, but the Nazis had to know, so they went in, they opened it up and looked, and it's like, I guess it wasn't as big as everybody thought it was, but that's kind of the way they were, like we're talking about. They were going everywhere and exploring everything and finding out all kind of crazy stuff. And they suppress it.
Yep.
They find out and they suppress it, and they teach us stupid stuff in school. So we can never get to these levels that they're at because we're taught stupid stuff.
How many genders, perhaps?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of
so it's another
who runs the Fourth Reich, which
curveball.
Really be learning.
More curveballs to keep everybody dumbed down and focus on other things that will not let us advance. But it's not working out. We're definitely advancing.
Victory of the light, and I think humans win in the end. I think it's a Bible verse that says, "In the end, God wins. The light will win. We will prevail." But we got to go through this dark night of the soul, where we basically look at our reflection of who we are, and this is part of the story of who we are. Humans have done some really dark, demented stuff to each other over the centuries, and in order for us to then move up to these higher vibrational dimensional states, we've got to basically confront ourselves and what we've done. And each one of us in past lives too is all going to be part of this reckoning. And that's how, when we get through this dark night of the soul, then it will be the light at the end of the tunnel. And I do think there is a golden age in store for the human race.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's what I love doing. That's why one of the reasons why I love doing shows with you, because yeah, some of this is heavy information, but learning this opens us up to the future. Because if we don't learn this stuff, this dark side, we can't go to the next level, and
Yep.
that's one of the reasons why they suppress it so hard.
Yep.
So yeah, there's dark and there's light. You can focus on the light, but you have to learn from the dark too. And that's one of the things that we're finding uh, through this craziness that's out there.
Right. And part of this great awakening, Michael, I'm sure you'll agree, is when you do align yourself with the light and the truth and start to really hone in that intuition and that inner knowing of who you are, the know thyself. And when you do start to only speak the truth and only be in service to others and only do your very best to help heal this donkey of a planet that's been abused so hard, can we
Yeah,
finally start to see this for what it really is? I think that's the nature of William Blake's quote. When you cleanse the lens of perspective, perception, then you see the world the way it really is. The doors of perception. That's where the band The Doors got their name from. That William Blake quote. And that's kind of how I see it. And that's where a lot of sometimes my information and research comes from that inner knowing as well, or being able to put these dots together in a coherent way. And then you see, oh, that's what it's all about. All these things do really interconnect. And this part of this lost history of the Germans playing a much larger role in the world post World War II than almost anybody has any idea they have.
yeah, they're pretty much ruling the world for a great part. So you have a fantastic website, bradolsen.com. That's spelled with OSEN.
Olsen. Yeah.
Olsen.
I don't know if I told you the story though, but one day at Christmas dinner about 20 years ago, my 95-year-old grandmother, in a shocking statement, says to everyone, "Your last name isn't really Olsen." We're like, "What?" She said, "Your great grandfather, when he came over here, he was on a boat full of really wealthy Danish people." And in Denmark, Olsen, the way it's spelled, my way, is a very popular name in Denmark. And he goes, she says, "Your real last name is Rasmussen." And he just changed it when he got to Ellis Island because he wanted the Olsen family to be successful, like the Danes. Wow, Grandma, thanks for dropping that bomb on dinner. Hey, that's who it is.
All right. Wow. So that's good stuff. You've keep coming out with these great books. You travel the world. You bring out this great information. Soon you're gonna be traveling to Germany. Wow, and bringing out more information.
And the Bosnian Pyramid in June for the Bosnian.
Really?
Yeah, with Dr.
Oh,
Sam.
wow.
And I'm going to the UK next month for the Basis Project. So 3 trips to Europe in the next half year. And
Wow.
Beyond
That's gonna be
Esoterics
great.
now out in the 2nd edition. A lot of the information I was talking about today is from that. And Secrets of Antarctica will be out by the end of the year. But I should be getting advanced copies in another week or two. So as soon as they go live on CCC Publishing, that means I'll have books to send out to people who want to order a copy. But I don't have it up there yet, but it should be up this week, I think. And the new books are almost done from the printer and off to our distributor. So that's good news. It's all moving
Yay.
forward. And now it's just time to share a lot of this information with people. So thank you so much for having me on. Always a great pleasure to talk to you. We have so much of this kind of inside information that you and I and our perspective paths in life have accumulated. So it's great to come together and conjoin what you know and what I know and have these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'd love to go on that trip with you to the Bosnian pyramid. Maybe we can talk about that. Tracy too, I'm sure, would be game for that.
Billy
So
Carson's on that
so
one too.
great information as always, Brad. Always enjoy our conversations. It's like you've been revealing things that now people are starting to catch up with years ago, and now everybody's talking about the Antarctica, the Nazis down there, or the German Antarcticans. So Antarctic Germans. So there is a big movement to awaken consciousness, and you've been part of it. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Michael. I look forward to seeing you this winter and enjoying some of that snow behind you with
Absolutely.
my skis underfoot. Say hi to Tracy Jo, and we'll catch you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, buddy.